The corridors of Monday Night Raw felt heavier than usual. Every step echoed like a warning through the concrete halls of the arena, every whisper drowned under the thunderous roar of something building, something no one could quite explain. The Vision, Paul Heyman's mysterious and ever-shifting creation, had already turned WWE on its head when Heyman crowned Brock Lesnar as its new leader just a week prior. But that shocking move was merely the prelude to something darker, something that would redefine the very idea of dominance. Backstage, the red emergency lights painted the walls in a dim glow, flickering just enough to cast long shadows of the men who now found themselves caught in the center of the Vision's storm. Braun Breaker stood near a stack of production crates, his breathing heavy, his jaw clenched, his eyes burning with frustration. Big Bronson Reed leaned against the wall, massive arms folded, expression unreadable. The tension between them was thick, born not out of hatred, but out of uncertainty. They had joined the Vision because Heyman had promised them power. Promised them clarity. But clarity had turned into chaos. Heyman had crowned Lesnar as their new leader, and since that moment, the balance of power had felt unstable, like a volcano just waiting to erupt. Breaker finally spoke, his voice low but simmering with defiance. "You feel it too, don't you?" he muttered, glancing at Reed. "Something's not right. Heyman's hiding something again." Reed didn't answer. He didn't need to. His silence said enough. He'd been around Heyman long enough to know that the man never revealed all his cards. The announcement of Brock Lesnar as leader had felt like a power move, but what if it was something else? What if the Vision was mutating into something entirely new? Then, without warning, the sound of a door slamming shut echoed down the hallway. Breaker turned sharply. Reed straightened his posture. The entire energy of the room shifted in an instant. And there he was. Brock Lesnar. The Beast. The new face of the Vision. He walked slowly into the light, the camera trailing behind him as the atmosphere thickened with dread. His hair was tied back, his eyes sharp and predatory. But something about his aura tonight felt different, not wild or uncontrollable like the Lesnar of old, but cold. Calculated. Dangerous in a way that suggested planning, not instinct. He wasn't dressed for war this time. Black jeans. Heavy boots. A long black leather jacket emblazoned with the Vision's symbol, a stark white eye surrounded by jagged streaks of red. The mark of control. The mark of chaos. Breaker met his gaze with defiance. "Took you long enough to show up, boss," he said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. Lesnar didn't respond. Instead, he just stared at the younger man for a long, unnerving moment. The kind of silence that could break even the most confident soul. Reed shifted his stance uneasily. "You got something to say, Brock?" he asked. Lesnar's lips twitched into a slight grin, one that didn't reach his eyes. "Yeah," he said, voice deep and slow. "I've got something to show you." Breaker frowned. "Show us what?" And then, from the darkness of the corridor behind Lesnar, a shadow began to move. Heavy footsteps followed. One, then another. Slow, deliberate, echoing like a countdown to war. The camera zoomed in. And the crowd watching from the arena screens erupted into disbelief. It was Drew McIntyre. The Scottish warrior. The man who once slayed the Beast on the grandest stage of them all. The man who spent years fighting Lesnar, defying him, and refusing to bow to anyone. Now walking beside him, shoulder to shoulder, head held high. The moment was almost surreal. Two men who once represented the pinnacle of rivalry now united under one banner, the Vision. Breaker's expression twisted into confusion and rage. "Nah, this is some kind of joke, right?" he spat. "You can't be serious." McIntyre's eyes locked on Breaker's with a glacial stare. There was no humor in his face, no trace of sarcasm, only intent. "You think I came here to joke?" he said coldly. "I came here to reshape this place. I came here because the Vision isn't about following, it's about ruling." Lesnar stepped between them, his tone steady but laced with dominance. "Last week, Paul Heyman made it clear, the vision is under my control. But a real leader doesn't work alone. A real leader builds an empire. He turned to McIntyre, nodding slightly. And that empire just got stronger. Bronson Reed took a step forward, his tone skeptical. You mean to tell us, the same Drew McIntyre who took you down at WrestleMania is now standing with you? Just like that? Lesnar didn't flinch. That's the beauty of evolution. Enemies become allies when they realize they were fighting for the same goal all along. Breaker scoffed. And what goal is that? You think this vision makes you untouchable? Makes you gods? McIntyre's voice was like steel. No, kid. It makes us inevitable. The air turned cold. Reed and Breaker exchanged uneasy glances, but before either could speak, the familiar voice of Paul Heyman echoed from down the hall. Gentlemen, gentlemen. Heyman called out, his trademark smirk plastered across his face as he walked into frame, clutching a thick folder and his phone like they were trophies. I see introductions have already been made. Oh, how wonderful. How poetic. He circled around them like a vulture, the gleam in his eyes betraying that everything happening had been planned long before tonight. You see, he continued, the vision was never meant to be a team. It was never meant to be a partnership. It's a concept. An ideology. And ideologies evolve. Heyman turned his gaze toward Lesnar, admiration dripping from his every word. When I declared Brock Lesnar the leader last week, the world thought I had chosen a monster to control. But I didn't choose control. I chose chaos. And tonight, I introduce chaos's perfect counterpart, the warrior who understands that destruction isn't an end, it's a beginning. He gestured to McIntyre. Behold the newest weapon of the vision. Breaker took a step forward, fury flashing in his eyes. Weapon? You can't just walk him in here and expect us to bow down. We built this thing while Lesnar was off breaking people for fun. McIntyre stepped right up to Breaker's face. You built nothing. You're just another brick waiting to be crushed. You don't like what's happening? Step up. Make me regret walking through that door. Breaker clenched his fists, but Lesnar's hand shot out, grabbing him by the chest and shoving him back against the crates. The impact rattled the room. Enough, Lesnar growled. You don't get to question my decision. Not here. Not now. For a brief moment, Breaker looked like he might strike back, but Reed pulled him away, shaking his head slowly. Heyman, ever the orchestrator, clapped his hands once, breaking the silence. Good. Good. A little tension makes the blood boil. Keeps the machine sharp. He paced in front of them. The world is watching the vision. The fans, the locker room, the executives, they all want to see if we can hold together. And that's exactly why Drew McIntyre is here. To remind everyone that the vision doesn't crumble. It multiplies. Lesnar folded his arms, his stare unwavering. And anyone who can't handle that, he paused, his tone dropping into something almost primal, will get crushed under it. The camera caught Breaker's expression again, somewhere between anger and fear. He wasn't backing down, but he knew this wasn't the same vision he had joined. Something darker was taking shape, something beyond Heyman's manipulation. McIntyre turned toward Heyman, lowering his voice. You wanted evolution, Paul. You've got it. But understand this, I'm not your pawn. I'm here to make this brand bleed power again. Heyman smirked. Drew, my dear warrior, you misunderstand. You're not a pawn. You're the sword. Lesnar stepped forward again, looking down the lens of the camera, his voice gravelly and deliberate. You all saw what happened last week. Heyman said I was the leader. But a leader doesn't talk, he proves. And tonight, the vision proves it doesn't bend, it doesn't break, and it damn sure doesn't wait for approval. He looked back at McIntyre, nodding. Welcome to the future. As the words left his mouth, McIntyre cracked a faint grin. Then let's make it violent. Without warning, McIntyre ripped off his jacket and grabbed one of the nearby steel chairs. Before anyone could react, he swung it with ferocity, smashing it against a metal locker. The sound echoed through the hallway like a thunderclap. Breakker flinched slightly, but McIntyre's grin only widened. Heyman watched with near euphoric satisfaction. "Now that," he said softly, "is the sound of destiny." The camera panned over the four men now standing side by side: Lesnar, McIntyre, Reed, and Breakker. A new breed of dominance. Not allies, not friends, predators forced into the same cage, driven by ambition and bloodlust. Heyman's voice broke the silence one final time, the tone dark and foreboding. "Next week. The vision doesn't just speak. It acts. And when it acts, no one, no champion, no hero, no god, will stand in its way." The last shot focused on Lesnar and McIntyre, the two towering titans whose combined presence sent a shiver through the WWE universe. The vision had evolved. And in its evolution, it had become unstoppable. The screen faded to black, accompanied by a whisper from Heyman that would haunt the night. "Welcome to the era of unholy power." The world of WWE would never be the same again.